I'm known by now as the goat lady, when it should actually be the anti-goat lady. Why? Our program was very fond of goats. Our implementing partners were fond of goats. And I asked the questions, how do goats actually contribute to dietary diversity? And when no one was able to give me a proper answer to that question, especially seeing that people don't consume goat milk in Malawi, I said, well, then we don't do goats any longer. And we turned to chicken, and we came up with a chicken approach that made sure people are able to use the eggs and consume eggs for increased dietary diversity.
Oh, well, dietary diversity is the goal of FNSP, because at the end of the day, resilience does not improve outcome unless you actively involve it in the programming. Livestock production is one of the initiatives that FNSP did as one way of improving nutrition outcomes for women of reproductive age and children under 2 years of age. And I'm joined on this episode by Chisomo and Felista. Please introduce yourself.
I am Chisomo Dambula, working as Quality Assurance Officer under FNSP under GIZ Malawi.
I'm Felista Julu, working as Project Manager at Self-Help Africa, responsible for FNSP.
Thank you for joining us on this episode today. I think I'll start with Felista. You said you work as a project manager. In what capacity have you been with regards to the livestock production?
Thank you very much. So as a project manager under FNSP, my responsibility is to make sure that all the interventions that we are doing in that project, they are well managed, and also we are targeting the right people. Okay. And also the quality of the interventions are met at all times.
So what did FNSP do exactly in the livestock production initiative?
We started with a distribution of goats as a person program. Okay. But as years were going by, with different assessments and evaluations, we've migrated from goats and pigs initially to chickens because of the indicators that we have in consumption at household level.
What were the indicators? I'm now interested to know why you changed, because I know now it's chickens.
So our indicators are mostly on consumption at household level. Okay. So now in distributing goats, we thought that this will increase household consumption of animal source foods at household level. But when we did surveys, we found out that most of the goats were contributing to resilient indicators. As a household, they should have income, they should have something to sell when they are hit by maybe crisis. But our indicators, mostly we want them to consume the product. So they couldn't kill a goat for consumption. That's when we said, wow, let's try maybe chickens. Because we know at the household level, they can kill a chicken to consume. True. And also they can use the eggs for consumption. They can even use eggs at different levels to put them in the porridge as relish. Yeah, so that's why we said, okay, to increase consumption, let's go to chickens. And we started with the other types of chickens, but now in the local chickens. We tried the Mikolongwe. They could be Ngolongwe ones, and we're buying them from somewhere because we couldn't find them within the locations that we are. But we also had issues of high mortality rates. Also, after doing a survey and seeing the results, we said, no, I think let's try local chickens because they are available within the locations that we are. We are buying them in the locations, and we have seen that through that, we have improved the mortality rates of the chickens that we are distributing.
Who did you partner with in this initiative?
We are started doing it. Okay. The main stakeholder is the government. Okay. So we are working with government structures from district level, community level to support us. So we mostly work with the care group structures. This includes the DNCC at district level, the NCC at TA level, the VNCCs and promoters at community level. Okay. So because this is an intervention which is mostly in agriculture, we also partner with the Dahido's office at district level, which is the Department for Livestock.
Yeah, I was about to ask, what is Dahido?
Yeah, so this is the livestock department at district level, but at community level, we're working with the agriculture extension department to support on production.
So you're looking at multi-sector, like there's agriculture involved in there.
Yes.
There's also the nutrition side.
Yes.
So these ones are helping with the production and probably maybe with the vaccines and things like that.
Exactly. We know we are in nutrition. Yeah. We cannot handle livestock on our own. That's why we need the Department of Agriculture to support us in production, livestock management, vaccination, and all that.
We also had input from a livestock expert.
Okay.
So as a program, we procured a livestock expert to help us assess our livestock programming. So in 2022, with the help of this livestock expert, there was a study that was conducted to assess our livestock programming and if at all it is helping us achieve our intended indicators. So from that study, it was observed that not many of our beneficiaries eat goat meat. As Felista said, they were selling it as a backup plan. Yeah. Yes, and not many of our beneficiaries, less than 40%, they don't take goat milk.
Yeah.
So we're distributing goats at that point with the reason that they should eat the meat as well as the milk, but we're not getting that intended outcome. Yeah. But from that study, it was also observed that many of the beneficiary households eat poultry. So that's why it was recommended that then let's just try poultry. And we have also transitioned from Mikolongwe, as Felista said, to local chicken.
So how did you identify the families that you decided, okay, so these are the ones that are going to be our beneficiaries?
Yeah, so in the FNSP, we have different interventions. Okay. It's not only local chickens. Just to make sure that we are addressing all forms of malnutrition. We also have other interventions. For example, we promote backyard gardens. Yes. We promote that all the under 2s should go for the clinics, the under 5 clinics. So for this intervention, because it was like an add-on, we were making sure that all those households that have adopted other interventions that we are promoting were a priority. But also number 2, the capacity of the household to take care of the livestock. Because these are livestock, they need to be taken care of. So we're also looking at, do they have the capacity to take care of the livestock? So these 2 were the main criteria for selecting the households to benefit.
You transitioned from goat, which was honestly very good, because even goat milk is very nutritious. But then I think it's also about how people are programmed in this country. Yeah, it's a perception. They just feel like the best milk is only cow milk, which is a sad loss anyway. But now we move to chickens. Why local chickens? And also, what role do they play in the nutrition ecosystem?
For the local chickens, poultry was one of the already consumed meat or product at household level. 2, management. So local chickens, they're already in the communities. We have grown up seeing local chickens around. And it's something that is not new. For example, if you're putting an example fish, that will need maybe a community, not as a household, to handle it on their own. So when there's something that can be consumed, the decision of consumption can be made at household level. Like the mother and the father can just wake up today, okay, let's kill a chicken. So that's why we said, okay, for consumption indicators that we're looking much on, local chicken was the best.
And also in the areas that we're implementing, we're in Dedza and Salima, fish is readily available in Salima because of the lake.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
In Dedza, it is not. And for us to start introducing fish, we would have to look into pond construction.
Yeah,
so
that's costly.
Yes,
and a lot of time.
And we would also be introducing, as Felista said, something that is not the normal in most of the areas in Dedza, for example, the fish ponds. But local chickens are already available in the community, and we knew that the acceptability of local chicken meat and the eggs is already there. It's already high. People already consume.
Oh, wow. I think for me, if I'm to be listening to this podcast, what I would be catching from this conversation is kind of understanding community needs better and figuring out how best to work with the local available resources. I think that's the best thing that, anybody who would want maybe to pick on from where FNSP is stopping can sort of, learn from.
Yeah, I equally agree, because even we said we tried with Mikolongwe and we have ended up with local chicken.
Yeah.
So Mikolongwe is much better. Size, production, and everything else.
Yes.
But now we're looking at management now at community level. A local chicken fits so well with the households.
And also, considering the environment, the ecological footprint of local chicken is very low compared to goats. We are also implementing in an environment that we have to take care of the environment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What were you advising these communities in terms of housing for this chicken?
Before we dispute chickens, we train them on livestock management. So housing is one of the topics in that training. So a household identified to be a beneficiary for the livestock needs to have a collar ready before they receive the chickens. So that's one. So we really support them to have a local collar to accommodate the chickens. But suffice to say, we still have, when we go for monitoring, we still have a lot of issues, like you're saying, other households keeping chickens in the household. Why? Because now of the communities, of the fifths now. They have their chickens outside. Now fifths will come and steal the chickens. Now for protection, that's why they're now keeping the chickens mostly in the kitchens. But the recommendation is for them to have a basic collar at their household. Because if they have a collar, we also encourage them to be collecting the droppings. To feed into the backyard gardens that I mentioned.
For manure.
Exactly.
Wow,
so the droppings are used as manure for the backyard gardens that they have.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard from one of the beneficiaries that we visited in Dedza. Her place was really well kept and very good. She was like, no, we were taught to be sort of recycling this thing. We don't need to be wasting the droppings.
So under FNSP, we are doing integrated homestead farming. So we don't have an intervention which is standing alone. At household level, you have to integrate different interventions to make sure that we have increased consumption, but also resilience at household level. So as you're explaining, they'll have a backyard garden, they'll have local chickens, they'll have fruit trees, and the VDCs that we distributed local chickens, there are also fruit trees that we distributed. And we're also promoting backyard gardens. So what we are doing is just to make sure that whatever is happening, you have the droppings from the chickens, you take them to the backyard gardens and also from the fruit trees. So to make sure that you have all the 6 food groups, you need this integration at household level.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And I think growing up, this intervention was called Pakomoba Mwana Alirenji.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I remember that name.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Also, we are promoting Pakomoba Mwana Alirenji. That's really nice. Just in case you're just joining us, remember that you are listening to Over to You podcast. And in today's conversation, we are discussing livestock production as part of the initiatives that FNSP was promoting. I'm joined on this episode by Chisomo Dambula from GIZ Malawi, as well as Felista Julu from Self-Help Africa. But now, beyond receiving of these chickens, how were they feeding? Because feeding animals is another issue that probably discourages other people from, having livestock in their communities.
I'll keep on referring to the management training that they have. Yeah. So in that training, there's also a feeding topic. So we support households with how they can make feed locally using household leftovers at household level. So there's that training so that the feed is not expensive as perceived. But one thing that is emphasized is local chicken have been available in the community, but we just encourage that this local chicken should be given feed, not just wandering around like the way the normal practice that happens, like they don't give them water. True. We encourage them to give them water and also feed. On feeding, they should make local available. They should use leftovers from the household to make feed.
Yes, I totally agree with you because we found this woman that I'm referring to.
Yes.
She was telling me, of course, how, they were trained and everything. And she said,
My name is Asiatu Ibrahim from Mambo Village, Traditional Authority Ndindi in Salima. I am part of the group that is into rearing local chickens. I was chosen to be part of the group because I had a 1-year-old child at that time.
I received 3 chickens from Kea,
but now they have multiplied into 10 chickens. The caretaker advised that once the chickens start hatching eggs, I should be taking them to prepare porridge for the child, sometimes just preparing them as relish so that the child eats healthy food. The group helps me prepare healthy food for the child and the other people at home too, because when we meet, we discuss how to feed a newborn baby and children who are not 2 years old. So far, the problems I used to encounter in my home have been improved. Even the baby's feeding routine has improved. To show the caretakers that we eat the chickens and not sell them, they advised us to keep the legs when we slaughter our chickens. The legs are dried and kept safe, and we show them when they come. My chickens eat leftover food. We feed them sima and other locally available food and also water. Chickens that are well fed and given water appear to be more heavier than the other chickens. Since we received these chickens, we don't lack anything since we use the same eggs to feed our babies.
My name is Patricia Kennedy from Mambo Village, TN Dindi in Salima district. For me to be one of the chicken beneficiaries, I was breastfeeding and joined a care group where we used to teach each other about the 6 food groups, and they were also teaching us how to feed our children. Then they selected 2 of us to receive chickens. We received 4 chickens, 1 cock and 3 hens in 2023. They have since multiplied and we have 8 chickens now. They told us that when the chicken lay eggs, we should take some of them and add to porridge for our babies to be healthy. As a sign that we are indeed eating the eggs, the care worker advised us to hang eggshells on the roof, and when we slaughter the chicken, to hang the feet on the roof too, so that when the monitor comes, we should show them. On chicken feed, we grind maize husks at the maize mill, then we cook them. We also feed them with leftover nsima. For a change, we get sweet potato leaves and pumpkin leaves, dry them and feed the chicken. If it's fish, we grind the fish in a mortar and feed the chicken, and they grow healthy. There is a big change between now and before. We would buy eggs at the shop and chicken at the market, but now we eat eggs every week.
Quite some insights there from a beneficiary, because she was actually talking about, as Felista is saying, locally available resources. You know, Felista, she mentioned the peels from potatoes. She mentioned leftover nsima. It was interesting to hear this, you know, and she actually said, my chickens don't go far.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of the unique features of the implementation of the local chicken and the FNSP, because normally we know local chickens, we don't give them feed. We just let them go.
They just wander around.
Yes. And on top of the feed, they are also encouraged to have a water drinking point. Yes. Just as humans, they need clean water.
Yeah.
So that is also one of the unique features. But of course, it has its challenges, because we have people that believe that local chickens should just
wander around.
Yes. Yes.
Now that you've identified the families, you've trained them on how to prepare the collar and everything, what stage were these chickens that we're distributing?
We procuring the chickens locally. We're quarantining them for at least 12 to 14 days before distribution. So we count all these days to make sure that by the time that we're distributing to the beneficiaries, they're at point of lay. We know that most of the programs, they mostly distribute chickens which are soon after winning, but we make sure that they're at point of lay, because we want to see households consuming them immediately, so that we can immediately address the
nutritional
issues at household level.
Interesting. That's also something that stands out, yeah?
Exactly.
Because when you're thinking of point of lay, I mean, you don't take a long time to start, having eggs from that.
That's our aim, that the household should be convinced soon that we are already benefiting from the intervention than waiting for months before they can benefit. So when they start laying, they can start consuming the eggs.
Unlike the person program, the policy direction is that you have to start consuming when you pass on to the next household. So what happens with the nutrition status of the household? Meanwhile, while they are they are layering and passing on to the next household. So unfortunately, your nutrition status is very tricky. It's a status that you have to address immediately. So you can be moderately malnourished this month. If you don't address it, next month you're severely malnourished. And the better way is to prevent that you don't get malnourished. Yes.
How did they perceive these new changes you were bringing into their local chicken, production that they've always been doing?
One is on management. People believe local chickens should not be managed. They should be managing themselves, looking for fetching, looking for water and feed here and there. So that's one. So this is still maybe some may present on figures, but still we have other households which we're still having challenges to understand that local chickens should be also managed, fed properly. But I think seeing from their neighbors who are doing it, they can already see the differences in how the chickens are growing. Also, another maybe perception is on number of chickens. So in the communities, people have just
prestige,
just to have a lot of the livestock. So that's another issue. So in our interventions, we are not encouraging them to keep more, but to consume more. So even when they are laying eggs, we say, okay, a chicken may lay up to maybe 20 eggs. But we say when they lay, take some. consume them. Don't keep them for hatching.
No,
Even
I
when you
want
have
20 babies, 20 baby chicks.
No,
yeah?
that's not our. Yeah, so because we were looking at consumption.
Yeah.
So when you say, okay, a chicken can just hatch at least maybe 6, 8, they say no. The other people say your chicken does not hatch a lot. So it's something like that. So that's also another issue that on our indicators on consumption is something that we're also training the households that, okay, you keep eggs just for continuity, that you still have chickens. Not that you should have a lot of chickens. When you have chickens, please kill a chicken and eat it. Not sell it to buy deal.
The irony. Selling a chicken to buy deal. I mean, you're selling relish to buy.
Exactly. Yeah, so I think another way how we have tried to convince people to still consume the chicken and also the other products is because we are not passing on our chicken. So these chickens we give them, they are for the household, because what we really want, they should feel comfortable to consume them. So that's also another thing that we have done.
I think the pass on, that could also be a challenge, because you'll be like, now if I sort of eat these eggs, how many am I going to have remaining when this one goes elsewhere?
But just also to add on community perception, we have also registered a lot of spillovers. So households that were not targeted for this intervention, maybe they're also not within our target population, like reproductive women age, and they don't have an under 2 in their households. Maybe it's an elderly woman. We have seen them on their own procuring local chickens and simulating what we are doing with our beneficiaries.
That's a success factor.
Yes.
That's a really huge success factor.
So,
But now, speaking of success, what do you think have been the nutritional highlights that you've observed? I mean, since you made the switch from the goats to the chickens.
Okay, we may not have percentages on issues that maybe how we have reduced malnutrition, but we are very sure from our monitoring that we have increased consumption at household level. Because when we do our routine monitoring, we check how many, maybe in a month, when did you last eat eggs? When did you last eat meat? So with the local chickens, it's different with the goats. For goats, it will go years without killing any goat.
Yeah, true.
But with the chickens, you find that in a month, at least they've killed a chicken or they've eaten the eggs. Especially the eggs. They will eat eggs more times in a month than when they had the goats. So we're very sure, because we're increasing consumption, we not have readily available results on survey on reducing malnutrition, but we are sure with increased consumption, we are contributing.
Oh, interesting. But how were you monitoring? Because you being sure means there's been a monitoring aspect.
Yeah, so we have promoters as volunteers at community level who supports with monthly household monitoring. So they have their tools, like a reporting tool on checklist. What do they check at household level? Apart from that, we also have share staff going to the communities to monitor, but also GIZ, a monitoring team, also going to the communities to monitor. So one thing that we stand out on monitoring on consumption of egg and chicken is evidence. So when we go into the community, to a household, they say, okay, how many times have you eaten eggs or meat this month? They'll say, okay, I've eaten twice, maybe 2 eggs in a week. And you say, where is the evidence? We encourage them to keep the eggshells.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Until the promoter visits them or anyone else visits them and they show them, only that time they can throw them out or they can still keep them. But we encourage them to keep the eggshells once they consume the eggs. And also for the chickens, they should keep the chicken legs when they consume a chicken. So that's evidence to us that they have really consumed, because we don't expect anyone to sell a chicken without legs.
I think I've never heard of that kind of monitoring aspect. And I think it's actually really good, because it's really easy to tell.
Exactly.
Although I'm not sure how you would tell if maybe they could keep the same eggshells. Do you break them afterwards?
The eggshells, the promoter has to break them.
Okay, how about the chicken legs?
The chicken, they can keep them, so we keep track.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we keep track. Okay, last time we here, they showed us the chicken legs.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So next time they do not have to show only 2 again. If they show 2, then they should show 4 or 6. Something like that.
Wow. Because it's also hard to find a local egg.
Exactly.
It's not like the hybrid eggs that are everywhere. So you can't easily find that elsewhere to say, no, I'll just pick these ones and keep. It's often the hybrid ones. That's a very good monitor. I think for somebody who is listening to the podcast, kind of look into local means of getting data and evidence whenever you're doing implementation. It's very important.
Yeah. Just also to add on the monitoring. So it's not just looking at the eggshells and the chicken eggs, but also number of chicken. So we display a chicken to your household. We know how many.
Okay.
And that monitoring happens every month. So you can even keep track, like, okay, if she tells me that they've eaten a chicken, last time they had 4, she has eaten 1.
Yeah.
The next month she says she has 4, then you see something is wrong. Wow. So we check also the number of chickens because it's monthly. So there's that database. So the number of chickens, the consumption, they have to balance.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just remind us how many chickens we're distributing at household level.
Yeah, so we're distributing 4, 3 hens, 1 cock.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a good one.
And also just to point out that is not what the policy recommends.
Exactly.
So we have the Department of Livestock or Animal Health have a policy of if you are distributing chickens, how many should you distribute per household? Okay. But it's a person program. They direct partners that are distributing chickens and a person program to distribute 10 chickens per household. So 9 hens, 1 cock. Okay. But that is a person
It's a person project.
Yes.
It's not just for you.
No. Okay. So during this study also, we realized that with the capacity of the beneficiaries that we are working with, imagine you don't have chickens today and I give you 10 chickens the next day.
Oh my God.
Yes.
It's the excitement. You don't even know how to handle that much.
Yeah.
And how many will they be in the next 4 months?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then there's a feed aspect, management issues. And we looked at all that when we said, how about we try with 4 and see if it's going to be successful or not. And after all, our target is not for them to pass on. It's for consumption.
To keep and consume. Yeah,
we thought it was reasonable to reduce the numbers.
Oh, interesting. Remember, this is Over to You podcast, and today we are discussing livestock production. Please keep listening. Now, what do you think made this intervention stand apart?
To me, I think one, it's not passing on. It gave the participants all the confidence to consume the chickens and also their products, the eggs. Yeah. So that's one. 2 is the inclusion of management practices in the local chicken program. Because now the chickens are not just wandering anyhow. Yeah. They are being managed. And we have seen that this is helping them to grow well. Because in the management, we're also including disease and disease control measures. Yeah, that's 2.
And I would say the monitoring part.
Yeah, me too. I like that part.
Because FNSP is not the first program to do livestock interventions. Yeah. Even before we started this type of monitoring, we were relying on trust. It was a trust issue. So if you tell me I consumed goat milk,
that's enough.
That's it. If I consumed goat meat, that was it. But we thought it's not enough. We need evidence. So the monitoring part really stood up for me, and also the number of chickens.
No, I totally agree. Me too. I love the monitoring because I hadn't heard anywhere like that kind of monitoring before. And actually, it kind of now speaks to actual impact. But I think also for me, the fact that you take data and learn from it and adapt into your program to improve the outcomes, that's something else as well.
Yeah, and also FNSP works with implementing partners as SHA. So I would also imagine from their side to convince their organization that we're no longer buying goats, we have to go to chickens. True. And also when you are actually inside the project implementation, for you to critique yourself and say what I'm doing it's not contributing to the intended outcome. Totally, also, it's very unique.
It is.
Yes, and I think you are right. Not only in livestock, but in all the interventions under the FNSP, we have a learning component.
That's great.
We learn from our data and
evolving.
Yes, and we critique ourselves and we take a step back and revise how we have been implementing things. So
I also wanted to mention about the procurement of the local chickens. It's also something that stand apart. Because initially we were procuring from outside, because goats and the mikolongo couldn't find them locally. So when we went to local chickens, we agreed that we are procuring these chickens in the same areas that will be distributed. On top of that, we need to quarantine them before we give them to the beneficiaries. Why? Previously, when a beneficiary has a diseased chicken, it dies. That's a loss of the beneficiary. True. But this time around, we said, no, let's take up the risk. This loss should be transferred to the supplier or to the organization at least. So when they are quarantined, they're still in the hands of the supplier. They will procure in the community, quarantine them within the same community at the agriculture, the EPA, agriculture planning area, and for 14 days before they can be disputed to the participants. So we know that when they die, I mean, this loss is on us and the supplier, not to the communities. So that's also something else that we worked on to make sure that the communities do not have diseased chickens, but they should really benefit from the program.
Yeah, just also to commend our implementing partners to take up that risk. It is an expensive process.
It is.
Yeah, and before we decided to do the quarantine, we had distributed chickens, local chickens that were not quarantined, and we had a high death rate.
Exactly.
And that's cost
even with
was
the local
also,
chickens.
yes, that cost was also transferred to our implementing partners. So they had to replace the chickens to the households that had loss of the chickens. So we have really worked with implementing partners that have been flexible and have been able to maneuver through their budgets and make sure that it's not the beneficiaries that are losing.
Yeah, that's actually really good. But also I think the local ones, if they're from within the same environment, it's issues of climate, they can be affected. The issues of maybe feed, they are resilient to a lot of factors because they're from within the space. If you could improve that little thing, what could it be from this intervention that you've been implementing?
These learnings that we have had, the learning journey, I would say they have been internal. Okay. So it has been FNSP, SHA, and CARE as the implementing partners that we have gone through this learning process. Yeah. But there are other development partners that are also implementing livestock programs. That maybe we could have included them in the learning journey so that they don't repeat the same challenges, that we've faced. But we have tried, even though at a later stage, we had a learning event. We invited several development partners. So I would say maybe these learning events or learning series, if we had started them earlier on to involve other development partners, to involve the Department of Animal Health, would have had a bigger impact. Of course, we've had impact, but we've had
Now, you don't want to be stingy with information. No, that's a good one. Felista, maybe anything that you think could have been done better?
Maybe more on the disease controls. Yeah. So we were just we're linking our households with already existing community animal health workers in the communities for the treatment of the livestock, depending that they will be supported. But what we have learned is most of the times they don't have drugs in their drug boxes. So I think that's one thing that despite supporting households with locally treatments like using Arvela and all that, which sometimes to other diseases they do not work, we would also have looked bigger on supporting them with the drugs in the drug boxes because the structures are there. Okay. But what we have learned, they are not functional.
Strengthening disease control.
Exactly.
Oh, interesting. Now, sustainability, how do you see this sustained?
So we have linkages with the Department of Livestock or Animal Health at district level. We have committees at community level and assistant veterinary officer in the communities. So these structures are supporting the households on the continuing management of the livestock. On that household level, these are their chickens. They have owned them. They don't have to pass on. Yeah. And we have seen them already taking care of them. We don't think they'll stop taking care of them once the project transitions. So it's also because we have intensified monitoring. We know they have the capacity to handle the livestock that they have. So we are very certain that with the support from the agriculture office, they'll be able to continue the interventions.
But also we have developed knowledge products. So we have a livestock handbook.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
Yes, it's very portable, very easy to follow. That is there, and it's with the district councils, with the district livestock officers. They will continue having this knowledge on how we managed our program, and they can still use it even in other areas that FNSP was not there.
What a legacy to leave behind. That's really good.
And we are also going to produce step-by-step videos on how they can make feed, on how they can build a collar. And we haven't done this in isolation. We have done this together with the district council. So we had a process where they told us what are their needs, what are the knowledge products that they would want the program to live as we're transitioning. So
I think when we are looking at nutrition indicators, especially consumption, we don't have to go for bigger livestock.
Okay.
That will never happen from our lessons.
Wow.
So the small stocks, they are the best if you're looking at increasing consumption at household level.
Okay.
And I can say we are very proud as FNSP because starting from where we're coming from and ending the program at a point where we are comfortable that what we have done now, it's what we're supposed to do from the beginning, using our own learnings and monitorings. I'm very proud of the program, and I can recommend that if anyone wants to increase consumption at household level, let's talk on the small stocks.
Just to add on also to Felista that if we are working on consumption and improving nutrition outcomes, then pass on is not what we should do. It disturbs the ownership of the households. They have this livestock that is not theirs until they pass on to the next household. So I would urge the Department of Animal Health to look at their policy, to incorporate a policy direction on how development partners can implement programs that are addressing consumption.
Thanks very much. Those are very insightful last words. As for me, I think I've also learned I might as well start raising local chickens. You never know. I was so impressed when I went to Deza. Because I love local chicken, I think more than the hybrid stuff. So it was a good learning, I think, journey even for me, because it wasn't just seeing what they're doing, but I was like, I could also do this, as an individual now. Thanks very much for listening. This has been Over to You podcast, and in today's conversation, we have been discussing livestock production. I was joined by Chisomo Dambula, who is a quality assurance officer for GIZ Malawi under the FNSP project, as well as Felista Julu, who is the project manager under Self-Help Africa within the FNSP project. And we hope that you have learned a lot of things from this conversation, because I have, and I'm sure that you also have. Until the next episode, this has been your usual host, Zainab Chisenga, and this one is Over to You. Thanks very much for listening.